In today's episode, I am joined by co founders Lucy and Sid from Everybite. They really put on a masterclass in food safety and really understanding what consumers are looking for when they go out to dine. Things that I never would have ever thought of because I don't have people that have food allergens in my home. But it is such a large population, and the ways that restaurants have been doing it for many, many years has not been the best guest experience. And these guys really are solving some huge problems and driving better guest engagement, more retention, more growth. And so I implore you to listen to what they're doing. It's a very low lift solution that can help restaurants get to the place that they become the preferred brand for people with food allergens and really even diet sensitivities that they're looking to do. If you don't know me, my name is Jeremy Julian. I am the Chief Revenue Officer for CBS North Star. We wrote the North Star point of sale solution for multi-units. Please check us out at cbsnorthstar.com. And now on to the episode. Welcome back to the Restaurant Technology Guys podcast. I thank everyone out there for joining us. As I like to say each and every time, I know you guys got lots of choices, so thanks for hanging out. Today is a fun episode, and one of those episodes that, again, as I sit here, half of the reason I think I do this is to share with the world all these amazing inventions and things that are coming out. But then there's the other side of it. Since this world of restaurants have given me so much, I love learning new things and new entrepreneurs that are solving problems for people that are out there. And so I'm going to introduce you to a couple of entrepreneurs, Sid and Lucy. Why don't you guys take it? Ladies first. Lucy, why don't you introduce yourself? And then Sid, pass it over to Sid. You guys can just talk a little bit about who you guys are, and then we'll get into what you guys are building for the world, because I'm excited for the world to hear what problems you guys are solving, because it's really exciting.
Thank you. I'm Lucy Logan, and I've been in the food industry for almost 20 years. I started first doing nutrition analysis. So some individuals who will be listening to this probably would have known me from Menu Calc, where we were doing, and still do, nutrition and menu labeling and allergen analysis for restaurant chains. So I've always been very close to the culinary and the sort of consumer side of the food industry. Love technology, love our industry, and a couple of years ago started to play around with some things around personalization on the menu. And that's when I was very fortunate to get introduced to Sid and some of the things that we'll be talking about with Everybite, which we founded together 2 years ago. So yeah, that's kind of me from the food industry side. And then I think the power is really in Sid and I coming together. So I'll let him introduce himself, and then I know we'll move into Everybite.
Hi, that's Sid Conklin. I've been doing startups for way too many years. This is my sixth startup, and I'm blessed to work with Lucy. I love working with other founders who really have a deep understanding of the business. I love to build things, so I build companies in different technology sectors, from shopping to ads to sports roll-ups. And what I found when we talked with Lucy is that there's a huge opportunity here where there's a huge market. There's data that can unlock the market for personalization, but it has not been used. And so when Lucy and I started talking together, it became, wow, let's do this. And that's how we arrived together.
I love that. And again, I've gotten the privilege to know you guys. Shout out to our friend Tammy Billings for connecting us a while ago. And Lucy, you alluded to what you guys are building. You guys are 2 years into this journey, but why don't you talk about it at a high level? What was the problem you guys were trying to solve? And then how is Everybite, you guys believe, the place that people are going to go, whether they know it or not, to solve that problem?
The weird thing is restaurants have always had this problem of guests would come into either on premise, or they would email into the guest relations, or they would send a message on social media. Hey, I'm someone who is gluten insensitive, or I'm a vegetarian, or I'm looking for menu items that are a certain dietary preference. And every single restaurant typically has a static menu. So they would then come back to our nutritional team and ask those exact questions. Which recipes have soy? Which recipes are gluten-free? Which recipes are our highest caloric one? And so we would then answer those. And it was just this forever ending manual static flywheel. And those are the types of questions that we would hear a lot and think, how can we automate this? And that was around the time that Sid and I got connected. And I was telling him, this is all these questions, and it's all the time across 2 locations, all the way up to a 2,000-3,000 location brand that uses us. And then it was that sort of aha moment of, how can we automate and digitize that, in effect, FAQ from the guest to the restaurant and to the kitchen in the back of house? And thus, Everybite was created to offer this personal experience, which I'll let Sid speak to on the technical side.
Before we jump into that, I'd love to have you explain how big of a challenge it is for people that are not as familiar with this type of thing because they don't have dietary restrictions. They're not around people that have dietary restrictions. I think it's a much more common experience than one might think. I'd love to have you define how big of a challenge is it for restaurants to deliver this data, and how often is it really coming in before we talk with Sid about how we had to calculate that data and start to present it back to the guests.
So, if you were to just focus on the food allergic dining community, so 1 in 10 Americans have a food allergy, and that's growing. So, we're a little under 34 million people have a food allergen. And then when you add that into vegetarian, vegan, pescatarian, halal, any other, again, personal branding dietary needs, it's about 85 million. And then you can start to layer in, I don't like garlic. I don't like red onions. And it's 105 million people in the United States that are all navigating that same laminated menu, trying to figure out, how can I find me in this menu? And I think the challenge has always been, restaurants have been force fed that nutrition and ingredients and allergens are bad for business. It's just a compliance piece, because if you're 20 or
Mhm.
more locations, by law, you have to do the calories. What we're seeing in the data, which, I know we'll be talking about later, is nutrition, when it comes to the calorie side of things, that is the sixth most interacted with filter on our technology. Consumers are looking for ingredients, they're looking for personal preferences. You think about Starbucks, I want a double shot of X. That's not caloric based, it's personal, dietary preference based. So I think changing the game away from this is a compliance to this is an unlock and a marketing opportunity is definitely something that we feel is the biggest opportunity, and it's for 85 million people.
Yeah, and when you shared with me that the amount of people that it impacts, I was blown away.
Yeah.
Not gonna lie, I was just like, "What?" Again, I've not had that experience. Well, I've had the dietary preference thing in my family, but not necessarily the health related or otherwise. So, talk to us a little bit about just. I know most people know the current state is a static menu, or it's a plastic laminate that's somewhere in the property where they can go figure these things out. But you've lived in a digital world, and you've really taken almost everything that you've done and said, how do I take what we do in the physical world and digitize it? Is that fair from your entrepreneurial journey over the last number of years?
Yeah, because basically the driving force of all the business I've been in are about personalization. And what we see, there's a McKinsey study that goes around that basically says if you basically do personalizations, you can raise the top line revenue by 40%. And it makes sense. We see personalization in Spotify and Amazon, all those worlds adapt to me. But when Lucy and I started talking about it, it was really odd that a restaurant doesn't adapt to you at all. That Lucy and I go into the same restaurant, we have different dietary things. You hand out the menu, and then the first thing we do is start asking questions. Can you imagine doing that on an e-commerce site?
Mhm.
It'd be like, what? And so what it dawned on me, which we had accepted forever, is that that's just the way it is. But when you stop that and think about it a little differently and see about how you can then allow people to personalize, and there's a lot of different data dimensions. We've talked about allergies, we've talked about nutrition, calories, but we've also talked about like people don't like nightshades, people don't like X, Y, and Z. And that's exactly what we found in the e-commerce world that I came from, is you want to be able to have them turn on these filters really quickly
Mm.
and find out what they get, what really matches them. And the longer that takes, the more breakage there is. And basically you lose the chance to really get a transaction. And so this is what we saw when we first started going to the smart menus. We put it on the sites, and all of a sudden people would come. And Lucy and I were talking about in the beginning, be like, maybe they'll just come in for 1 or 2 times and then they'll be gone. Never happened.
Mm.
They kept on coming back and coming back. And then we started saying, what if we have for this feature, we put on these ordering buttons, and all of a sudden people started clicking. And then we put in personalization with the ordering button. Now the dishes, when you basically search something, it says my dishes that will fit you over the entire menu. And all of a sudden, we just saw the numbers take off.
Yeah.
And I guess this is the big message we want to get out is what, as Lucy said, everybody thought this was compliance. No, it's an unlock.
Mhm.
And just to
Mhm.
give you an idea of the magnitude of unlock, classically in the restaurant business, there's 2 to 6% conversion between QSR and fast casual. What we're seeing is basically a 4 to 5x multiplier on that conversion. So this is dollars and cents for restaurants, which is
And when you talk
really
about
important.
conversion, I mean, you're an e-commerce guy, so I hear conversion.
Well,
So tell
yeah.
restaurant operators, tell restaurant marketers, tell restaurant CEOs that are listening, what does that actually mean for them? What does 2 to 6% conversion look like? Is that they go on the website, they look at product, and then they abandon? Like, I know what it is, but I'd love for you to tease that out a little bit, Sid, because again, this is the world that you've lived in. So educate our audience as to what does that actually mean? And then you're talking 4 and 5x those numbers, which clearly are astronomical when you can get a 5x return on anything.
Yes.
So, what is conversion? I guess either one of you guys can take that.
So it's just a simple thing. If you basically have 10,000 people come to your site, and I'll just use 6% as a great target, that means 600 people will turn into an order. So if you're a business, it's pretty simple. If you have 10,000 people walking through the door and only 600 people buying, that's the conversion. Doesn't matter what it costs to get them there. Doesn't matter anything around cost. It's just 10,000 people come in, 600 people ordered. What we see when we do that is we can basically multiply that and get it up to 18.5%. So now it's 10,000 come in, 600. Now basically you're getting 18 at one
18. Yeah, 1800.
1,800 orders. And it's just that simple.
Mhm.
So why wouldn't you do this? And we're so firmly believed in, we've been running this across a bunch of our sites. We've seen it every case, every time it does it, no matter if it's fast casual, it's QSR, casual dining, it's always the same curve. We turn it on and it goes right up.
And I know I was just at Restaurant Leadership Conference, and the Technomic presentation talked about the fact that we live in a hyper personalized world. You talked about Spotify. I tell all of our listeners that have listened for any number of months, I was traveling with one of my kids. They needed to submit a homework assignment, and so they logged out of my Google account and into their Google account, and then handed me my laptop back. And I was like, "What? What did you do to my computer? Because you screwed everything up. Because the whole browser, everything was different." And our listeners will pick on me about it, but it's true. Our Facebook feed looks different. Our
Yeah.
Twitter feed looks different. Whatever you want to call it, everywhere in the world, it is that way. Everybody's looking for that norm effect, the cheers effect when I walk in, that they
Yeah.
know who I am and they're willing to do that. It sounds like you guys are at a place where you guys are trying to create that digitally. We were talking pre-recording. My sister lives up in the Bay Area. She happens to be a pescatarian. She likes to find places that she can eat. And at one point, she was a vegetarian. She wanted to go eat places that only had that kind of cuisine. And so back to what happens is she would go to the same 2 or 3 restaurants that she knew she could get something rather than exploring. Is that kind of what you guys are seeing in the data, Lucy?
Yes. And I think to go back on this numbers that Sid was talking about, the biggest difference and the unlock is our smart menus sit on a restaurant's website under their button or their link that says, click here for nutrition information, click here for our allergen guide. So if you're one of the 85 million people, you are going to the restaurant's website in advance of maybe doing an order pickup or actually making a reservation. So you are a pre-qualified lead already by being one of those 85 million people. You're then going to the restaurant's website, you're clicking on that page, which is now our smart menu. And then that's where we have our order button that takes that all the way through to the conversion. We definitely see on average on our smart menus about a 25 to 30% repeat visit rate, which is just off the charts. You wouldn't
Mhm.
get that on a PDF of an allergen or a nutrition. We know that the food allergic diner, about 46% average will sign up to a loyalty program over a traditional diner, which can be 12 to 17%. So these
Wow.
huge numbers when it comes to brand loyalty is literally sitting right there on their website, but they haven't unlocked it in a smarter way, which is what we're doing with the smart menu technology.
Yeah, no. And so, Sid, pivoting back to the smart menu technology, we've talked a lot about kind of the e commerce site, but we all live in a mobile world. We all carry around a computer in our pocket. whether I'm dining in. I had lunch with a client today, and had I had a dietary restriction, I know what the experience would have looked like because they're not a client of yours.
Yeah.
But had I needed to get to that, what does it look like when I'm in venue? What does it look like when I'm traveling on the train or in an Uber on my way across town? What does that mobile experience look like, or the in-store experience look like, different than when I'm on a full-size browser sitting at my desk at home on my MacBook or my Windows machine?
Yes, well, our technology gets to basically the size of your screen. And so basically, once you basically start walking the world, it adjusts to the right size so it works for your mobile device. It's also smart, detects where you are and give you locations that are nearby. So if you basically say, I'm at Jimmy John's and I want to order a location, it'll say, oh, based on this, you're this location. It also basically is integrated when you get to the restaurant. Now integrated QR codes directly to the restaurant. So they can be in the menu, they can be on the table, they can be everywhere the store wants to put it. And what we're seeing at Cracker Barrel is people are just putting that on. The waiters are saying, just look at the QR code. And they basically go on that. And we see over 1,000 searches a day where people are getting on that QR code, getting to a smart menu, and then do searching what items you're looking at Starbucks, excuse me, at the
And I think you guys alluded to it, but I think it's also an interesting paradigm because there was a lot of friction before. And so I'm certain that reducing that friction is ultimately getting back to that personalization. Reducing that friction allows, and again, I think I'll tell you guys, tell our listeners have heard this story, but we had a client years ago, this is 10 plus years ago, that put kiosk technology at the table. And they were in a place, they came from a previous brand where less than 15% of the orders that went into the kitchen got modified. As soon as they gave the guests the ability to take ketchup off of it or take tomatoes off of it, they would instantly do it because now they were in control of their own experience. It created an operational challenge because now they didn't know which burger had no tomatoes and which one did. And now they had to figure out a whole labeling thing. But it was amazing. Once you put the power in the hands of the consumer and allow them to do that, the friction goes down and they jump on it, to your point, Sid. Is that kind of, again, back to what you guys are seeing in the data, is that once I make it easy, I'm not having to ask somebody and let me go find it in the office. Let me go figure out where the laminate is. I don't know, go to our website. I think it's down on this page, because that's what happens today versus being able to put it in front and center with the guests. Is that, again, what you guys are seeing, Sid?
Yeah, it's amazing how much too. Once we basically turn it on, and it's one of those things you say, well, they can basically go and filter and search and basically resolve them. And what we saw is that they weren't just doing it like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 interactions. On average, we're seeing 10 interactions. So that means that people are going in and selecting maybe multiple values. Maybe they're looking for different things like they want things, cucumbers or anything like that. And what we see is the longer they used it, the more they used it. And then we also allow people to save dishes. And so we started to get more and more dishes. And so what we're seeing is exactly what we see in Starbucks and any one of these others. Once you do that power, as you alluded to basically customize, I customize the heck out of it. And then I save them so I can basically repeat them when I want to use it. So I don't have to do that work.
Yeah.
So we're seeing that again in food. And you think about this market's been around, everybody understands how to order, but nobody has ever been given the ability to really customize it. And this gets back to what we talked about when we first started going, is the big driver is repeat visitors. Everybody wants to be the norm. And if you don't give me the ability to tell you what I want or who I am, then who am I? I'm just another head that comes in. As soon as I start talking about who I am, I get the norm effect.
Yep.
And that is the key that we're trying to do in a market where there is so much competition, and I can go right down the street for another type of brand and look at experience. How do you stand out? It's all about personalization.
And back to Lucy's comment about the fact that there's 100 million people in the US alone that are looking for this. Lucy, for those naysayers that are out there that are like, I'm a director of marketing, I'm a CEO, I don't have enough time. I don't have time to be dealing with this crap. Help them understand how easy you guys make it, because I think it's incredible how you guys are able to make this so seamless for the restaurant operators to deliver this to their guests. We've already talked about how much better it is for the guests, but a lot of times these projects get stuck because they've got 400 other projects on their plate and they don't have capacity to do it. They might want to, they love the idea, but they're struggling because they don't have enough time, they don't have enough budget, they don't, whatever. It always is that constraint. And I know you guys have worked really hard to make this so much simpler for the end user that is managing the menu, that is updating these things on a weekly basis or whatever.
And I think One of the things that has enabled us to scale as quickly as we had, going back to what we were talking about when we first got started, are people going to be going to our smart menus? And Sid and I would sit at the end of the day and we'd hit refresh on our dashboard and be like, okay, 500 people. We're now at 250,000 people every month coming to our smart menus. So we still do the evening refresh, but
Hmm.
we've definitely proven that product market fit for the guest. Zero churn, zero drop off. So it's really great to see that we've built something that the guest loves. But absolutely, the question that restaurants will always say to us, like a CMO or a marketing team will go, love it, didn't know this was even possible, but integration has to be involved. We got to pull in the tech team. You don't. If you are 20 or more locations, you're 90% there because you've probably already done the nutrition information. It's sitting on a PDF that you've put in the far right corner of your footer. We've built a proprietary PDF import so we can take it in. We run some various sort of AI and some machine learning behind the scenes to add in some of our smart menu filters, if it's allergens or diets or other preferences. So we can pretty much take a PDF and some of your other data sets in Excel or a CSV, personalize that into your smart menu within a day or two. If you want photos, maybe another day or two. So the restaurant is already 90% there. We can take them that final 10%, which is the most valuable 10% of the personalization journey.
Yeah, and create those filters. She said, should we ask her how the ML and the AI is working? Since you're the tech guy, we'll ask the salesperson and marketing person how all that stuff works.
But actually, it's really cool. If you think about it, a lot of the dishes out there, they don't tell you it's vegan or veggie. Pescatarians, we have algorithms to do that. We also have algorithms that makes people with pictures. And it's be surprised how the picture is offset so that what you thought was the main course of the dish is not right. And there are different dimensions and different clarity and different quality. We use all that AI algorithms and ML to make you clean all that up. So it's, the key with all this, we talked around and Lucy expressed to me is it has to be simple. It has to be one instruction. We basically built all our technology. Is it current PDF on their site? It's typically on a URL. We give them our URL, they drop it in for their existing, and it's done.
Yeah.
Yep. It scrapes it, pulls it up. And that to me was really powerful because I see way too many people that will listen to the show. They'll find me at a trade show and go, I love that, but it's project number 42 on my list. I can't figure out how to do it. So oftentimes when I talk to vendors, it's like, how do you guys make it simple for the CMO, the CIO, the CEO that's trying to get there? How do you guys deal with the pivots within brands? Most restaurant brands, you brought up Cracker Barrel, Sid. I know they just released their summer menu. They've got these new campfire feast things that are out there. And so there's things that are changing on a consistent basis. So I'd love to understand what does the upkeep look like? Not just how early in the process do you guys typically stay involved? Those kind of things. Because I think even some of the laws, and I'm not as familiar, Lucy, you'd probably be able to speak to it. I don't know how specials work when you've got a place that's doing daily specials or monthly specials. Do they need to put those all into the calorie counts and all of those allergens or not? And what does that normal upkeep look like when people are doing quarterly menu reviews and changes and LTOs and things like that?
One of the things that I think we do really is we come from a place of history with restaurants. So we know LTOs, we know seasonal favorites, we know chef specials, we know they want to use their menu as their sandbox to play around with different culinary trends and changes. And because of that, and our history of coming from the nutritional side, the recipes have a live sync through to their smart menu. So if we take Cracker Barrel as an example, let's say they're going to be changing out their prep recipe of their biscuits. They go into the recipe side of the back end of the technology. They swap out an ingredient. Smart menu knows that because there's a live sync, and then it updates within a matter of minutes. So there's a autonomous kind of always automated update that it knows that if it's a nutrition, an allergen, an ingredient, and a name, and then there is the ability for the restaurant to turn it on and off. So literally like in a POS, we're going to 86 this menu item, same functionality. You just click a button that says remove from smart menu, and it's completely automated and updated where, again, if you think around front of house staff, again, Cracker Barrel changing a menu item, that the team member in the table side, they may not know if this new biscuit has soy in it. So
Uh-huh.
they're going to go, actually, I don't know. Let me pause, go and ask somebody in the back of house. That's going to slow down the table turn. So this complete 360 data view is really important to us. And we cut our teeth on that from a regulatory side. Now we know to bring that experience to guest experience, increasing table turns, efficiency of the back of house, efficiency of operations, very much how a restaurant would probably use the POS style functionality is how that would work from the back of house recipes to the front of house menu.
To the smart menu. Yeah, and I'd love to know, I guess, just an opinion. Have you guys seen it helping staff even? Is there a time that you guys are seeing staff members using smart menus to help educate guests or educate themselves? I know one of the big things is they're supposed to know the menu, they're supposed to know all of these things before they go out on the floor, but it's hard to hire people. Oftentimes they have very little experience by the time they get out into serving the staff. So even in our world, we've helped with things like that on the point of sale side for what I do for a J job. But I'm wondering, even in the smart menu world, are you guys at a place where the staff is using the tool to help make things better for them? Have you guys seen any of that yet?
Yeah, so I had 2 calls last week where they said that they're actually going to put the URL on their handheld device. So that was while they were transitioning to put the QR code on the table or maybe a tabletop or a menu insert. Again, it gives that ability of, I know who you are. I'm trying to create that personal experience. We ran a report or a survey, I should say, and it took on average 11 minutes for a guest who has a dietary preference to find a menu item versus on Smart Menu, I think we're a minute and 5 seconds. And so our customers will say to us, it's awesome. We'll tell our guests, hey, any allergens at the table, any preferences, scan our QR code. It gives them those additional 10 minutes to upsell menu items, to push for cocktails, drinks, and it enables the front of house staff to get back to what they do best, which is building experiences for
Hmm.
the table.
And not having to memorize what items are vegan versus what items are vegetarian versus they're now guiding them through the guest experience rather than having to memorize all of this stuff. And again, I think it's amazing that you guys are allowing that and creating that experience both for the staff member and the guest. Again, I early days, many moons ago, I was waiting tables and you'd have to memorize all of these things and you'd have to figure out what was in there because to your point, guests are going to come in and ask, and it's really embarrassing when you got to go, I don't know if it's fried in peanut oil or whatever else,
Right.
and it could be a challenge. What is your guys' go-to-market activity? So you talked about some pretty serious numbers, and I know that you guys have been putting these things out there. I should probably ask the salesperson and Lucy just what is it that people need to get started, and what does it look like to get onboarded? Kind of what does the process feel like? What does it sound like, and where does it go from now if they're excited about this and hear it? I think you guys have been playing around a little bit with what makes the most sense for restaurants. So can you guys share a little bit of that?
There's a hybrid model. So if again you've got those nutritional allergen PDFs, even if it's just your web page, we will take that and then turn that into a smart menu. We like to say, imagine personalizing your menu within 24 hours. That's what we can do. And we've done that for 70 plus brands. We're, I think, 6,000 locations, maybe a wee bit less. So we know how to get that kind of personalization offer up within a day or two. So right away, we can give that smart menu to the brand. They can put it online. We can start to track and see what the guest is doing, which is some of our insights dashboard that we have. And then you have a secondary option where if you want to go really deep, true build your own concept. And then you just send us the recipe specs or an Excel file. We will have all your modifiers. So as you're building your menu item like a Chipotle, we know that the cilantro rice has soy, or we know that this particular chicken marinade has wheat in it. So we immediately get you in that personalized layer within 24 hours. And then we can work on deepening that over time. But you don't have to wait weeks to do any implementation because you've already done the hard work by doing the nutrition and allergen analysis on your PDF.
I love that. One last set of questions. Have you guys found that brands are using this as an advantage to market to their consumers at all yet?
Yes.
And let's talk a little bit about that, because I think it's, Sid, you mentioned I can go anywhere. There's within a 9 iron of me, I've got 3 Thai places that I can go to. So the Thai place that's going to serve my needs the way I want them is going to end up getting my business more than the other 2 that are not there. So talk me through, what does that look like from a go-to-market to trying to attract new customers? Because a lot of people are trying to keep people coming back, which I think you guys have already talked about that. The consumer experience is great, but how do we get more customers in the door to make this an advantage to them, to publicize it from the rooftops?
Well, what we found early on, which is really surprising, is that chefs do incredible jobs to make incredible food, but we all see it as just one thing, a hamburger. We don't see all the different things that are on there. We don't see this grass-fed beef. We don't see any of that. We turn around and say, wait a minute, if you're doing all this work, let's promote it. So in our smart menus, all that data is there. So if you do something amazing, the diners can actually find it. And that's the big difference. In a world of everything is vanilla, you don't stand out, and you have to fight to get everyone. But you're not vanilla. You do these incredible things. Bring a lot of you from our customers. They have these build your own, and they want to put like 10,000 different things on that. We carry all of that. We support all that. So what we're seeing is really from Gen Zs and millennials is pushing, which represents 44% of the buying population. We're seeing them push the industry now to everything around customization, personalization, where they want to control what gets added, what's all on. Those types of restaurants, we're awesome for them because we basically externalize all that so they can go find it. If you don't know, you don't look. So what we try to do is solve that problem right out the gate by having the smart menus put all that information out so they can start using it.
Yeah, and I think, like you guys have said all along, the more the consumers see it, the better off the journey gets. And again, almost every person that comes on the show, we talk about how do we create the best guest journey possible. And this is one of those ways. And Lucy, how would people get in touch? They need this. They realize that they've already got all of it, but it's what they're doing is a disservice to their end users. How do they get in touch with you guys? How do they learn more? How do they sign up?
2 very simple ways. Just go to everybite.com, and then actually brands can click on the explore menus, which is the top right corner, and they can see all of the other brands' smart menus and actually experience and consume it as a real world guest. And then we're putting out white papers and facts and stats and reports all the time on LinkedIn. So definitely find us on LinkedIn and follow us there. And just one thing I just want to kind of mention, when you were talking around sort of attracting new business and helping unlock other diners, the other thing that Smart Menu does really smartly is, again, if you're a guest and you've filled out your dietary preference, I love the example on Wayback Burgers. They've got a garden burger, and within that garden burger, it contains, I think it's either dairy or egg. It's one of the 2.
Dairy.
Is it dairy?
Dairy.
You would not know that if you read the menu, and the front of house
Yeah.
staff probably doesn't know that. So now when you go and have the experience with Wayback Smart Menu and say, I'm looking for items that are free from dairy, it's going to tell you that garden burger patty actually contains it. What we're now working on is actually then doing predictive menu display, other dairy-free dishes that would suit your preference, other dairy-free or other menu items that people who are looking for dairy-free also like these. So not only are we enabling that guest experience, we're actually encouraging them to go all the way through to the shopping cart and the checkout experience. It's marrying both that sort of menu and culinary and data together and doing it in a automated, predictive manner, which starts to be a little bit like a server in your pocket.
And I think there's there's 2 other things that I want to ask before we do sign off. The first of which, I'm sure from a menu engineering perspective, giving that data back to the culinary team that says there are so many people looking for this and you don't have an offering, or you have one offering, help create a secondary or tertiary offering for that. Is that, both of you guys, for those that aren't watching on video, both shook your heads violently that says yes. So that sounds like it's something that offers that capability. Is that correct?
Yeah. We've seen one of our customers, they took off a tuna fish sandwich, which is the only pescatarian dish they had on their menu. So immediately they just, and then we looked at it, and 14% of their users coming were marked as pescatarian. So you just created a hole for yourself. The other thing we saw is we track all search terms, and search terms are very high value. So if you're looking for salad or anything like that, we can tell you which match your menu and which don't. And so anything that doesn't match, we can tell you that, hey, that's another hole that you're basically not filling. And remember, when you go to the menu, you don't see what you're looking for. Hey, I'm out.
Yeah.
I'm out. I'm abandoning the
Yeah.
cart and I'm moving
Yeah.
somewhere else.
Yeah.
And I just want to think, we want to get back to like, how do you engage with it? Super simple. Sales@everybite.com. Send an email. We'll get right on it. And remember, your marketing media were really more powerful. So you're either going to get back more conversions, or you can make that marketing budget do longer, last longer. And basically, we're doing this on a pay performance basis. So there shouldn't be any reason why you're not connecting with us. So
Yeah, no, I think the lack of risk and really just the added benefits are amazing. So just I'm gonna ask a simple question that just came to mind that I think people are gonna continue to modify towards is the whole idea of voice search. Have you guys started to consider voice search? That using a large language model that says, "Hey, rather than typing in and clicking boxes, going to the model and saying, "Hey, I'm a pescatarian. I'm dining out with a vegan." And it's the start of a bad joke, I'm sure, but I'm dining out with a vegan and a halal eating person, and I'm a pescatarian. Can you find a restaurant in the neighborhood? But teasing, but is voice search coming? Is that kind of on the path?
it's a little scary. Sometimes I feel you look over my shoulder as I work at night.
Sorry.
Yes,
Well,
yes.
this is what I think about
Yeah.
it. I said it at the onset. Like, it's like these things get me so excited to see where the industry is going. And I just see it. I use voice so much more than I did 2 years ago, even to correspond with people, whether it's a voice memo or voice to text. And I just see it as something where I'm driving, taking the kids back from ball practice. And it's like, hey, I'm looking for something that's going to fit these dietary needs. You know what? It's huge.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and this is the perfect medium too, because we're looking, it is very deep and very clean. Basically, the restaurants keep it up to date. It has to be according to the FDA standards. So we have great data. So we've taken that and we're making what we call a domain LLM. So we're not going to create a large language model or frontier model. We're trying to create one that's focused around food, as we call it, foodie. We basically put all that information in so that you can text it. It's still in the lab. It's not out there, but it's pretty amazing. You can ask it and what it can find for you and how you can be specific. And what we found from some of our early users using it, it allows them to have a richer conversation. You don't need to know how to do a UI. You just say, and they can go super detail. We can go all the way down. And because we have all that data, we can give them that insights. And now it's basically a proprietary one where they can basically find out what we want. So they can't more partners. So figuring out how to deploy that on their sites. So you can imagine that it's everywhere. You can do it through a text. You could do it through WhatsApp. You could do it through a call, however you want to do it.
Your personal assistant, your Alexa, your Google Assistant, whatever in your house. No, I love that. And again, I see it as this evolution. As you guys said, when you guys started this journey, everybody's like, why have we been doing it this way for so long? And it seems so simple once you get to the other side of it. But all along, it's like, we've just been doing it this way forever. And once you really define the problem, which is why I love having entrepreneurs on that are really scratching a niche that's been out there for some time and solving real world problems. Lucy and Sid, thank you guys so much for not only coming on the show to share what you guys are doing, but really going out and doing your best to go change the world for consumers and for restaurants alike to make it a better place. To our listeners, guys, go check out everybite.com, connect with their sales team. Very low risk, if any risk at all. It's a couple of phone calls, get everything up and going. I really would encourage you guys because it's a very large consumer base that you guys are underserving now without a tool like this. And to our listeners, make it a great day.